Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author and robot, and today I wanted to talk about some controversy that's been going on in the writing community recently over this last week, because I wanted to add another voice to this because I think the conversation is completely ridiculous. But before we get started, a couple of things. If you enjoy what I do on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Yes, I'm going to criticize the conversation that's happening right now with also the cancellation of not only a book, but the destruction of a indie publisher. But I'm still open to hearing different ideas and opinions, even if I disagree with them. I'm generally not going to dislike somebody because we have different opinions. It just depends on whether you're malicious and mean about them or not. That really matters more than disagreements. So, probably going to be a spicy video, and I'm probably going to disagree with some people that see this, probably many people that see this, but I think it's important to have the conversation and the variation of opinion to get different perspectives. Number two, if you would like to have your books featured on this channel, please check out lmfao and PitchFit down, or not PitchFit, it is Fresh Meat Feature down in the description below. And number three, if you would like to get your hands on a copy of my forthcoming novel, Boom Boom Boom, it is also linked down below with either where you can buy it or ARC links, because I'm not sure at the moment. So with that said, let's get into this. So yesterday, the day before I was recording this, I started hearing about this fiasco with Silver Shamrock Publishing being canceled on Twitter. Of course, Twitter is a cesspool where only people go to sell you something or to destroy your soul. So really, I am honestly at this point of just like, Twitter is not worth it to be on as a writer, because the writers there generally, not saying all, but a large portion of the people there just want to sell you something, just want to trade follows for follows so that they can look like they have a bigger following. But nobody really cares about each other over there, and it's either sell you something or just destroy your soul, and most of it is destroy your soul because Twitter just is about anger and hatred. So I learned about this publishing, and why are they getting canceled, you might ask. It is because of this book this forthcoming book that they had signed on for, called The White Plague Chronicles by Jean O'Neill. And the description of the book is this: time is running out. An unknown terrorist organization has their hands on previously unidentified virus that is far deadlier than Ebola and even more sinister, as this horrific disease is genetically targeted to kill only the members of the Caucasian race. Two retired Black Ops specialists named Ryan O'Toole and Joey Hotsko are thrust into the unfortunate position of being humanity's last hope. These aging combat vets have been recruited into the secret international organization known only as the Association. Their mission to do whatever it takes to stop the virus from being released. Together they must travel from the backward rivers and jungles of Borneo to the scorching desert outback of Tasmania to the politically and religiously charged hotbeds on the streets and back alleys of Israel. But will they succeed in stopping the madmen responsible for these atrocities before it's too late? Sadly, the answer will be no. Oh, why are you spoiling the story for us in the synopsis? The plague will be released, and the effects of the deadly virus will be even worse than feared, mutating and evolving into a worst-case scenario that will change the world as we know it forever. Economies will fail, governments will fall, and countries will crumble. Billions of innocent men, women, and children will die, and the New World Order will rise in what will ultimately become known as the collapse. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the heart of darkness and far beyond. I guess you're not actually spoiling it because this isn't an action flick to stop it. That sounds more like it's the inciting incident, and the fallout/dystopian might actually be the story. But I haven't read this, and I'm guessing from this blurb. But that's, I guess, how it comes across to me. So I'm reading you this blurb and telling you what the book is because a lot of time when there's discussion around books and cancellations and destroying people, there'll just be a lot of like shit talking on Twitter that will actually not ever reference what is wrong or who the problem thing is. It's just everybody saying that person's a problem, and they don't actually want you to know what it is they're ganging up on. I went through this a couple of years ago when I started trying to figure out what was going on with the RWA, to the point that I was asking questions for all of these people that were just aggressively attacking somebody, that they wouldn't say what they did or give examples of what they did. And you ask any questions and they say that you are fake, they say that you're some kind of mole, they say that you are a racist. Like, they go after you for asking questions and trying to figure out what's going on while they are purposefully being vague. So I wanted to give you guys the full description of what it is that they're canceling so that you can get an idea of where, like, what it is they're opining on when they don't tell you what they're opining on. I want you guys to be able to make up your own minds and come up to your own conclusions on how you feel about this discussion. So now that you know about this book, what exactly happened? Well, people started reading that description, or I guess a couple of people might have read it and then started sharing it with their friends about, oh, this is bothering me, and started posting on Twitter about how racist this publishing company is for publishing this book, and not because it kills. Okay, so I don't know all of the details, and if you got more details on this, put them in the comments below. I'm letting you know what I know as an outsider who followed into this and found stuff with things already deleted. But from what it looks like is people were calling this a white supremacist dog whistle of some kind because it said white people would die and civilization would fall. Now, they're not taking into consideration how that is a large chunk of the population, like 10% or more, and how the virus is also said to mutate, which means it's going to end up attacking other people, and how that affects the world humanity, I don't know. But they took the thought that it's attacking white people and that civilization would fall as it's saying that white people are superior, and thus it's a white dog whistle because the world died without white people, or world went into chaos without white people and a new world order. No, you destabilized the world, the earth, by destroying a large chunk of the population. If you'd taken any chunk of the population, it would have destabilized the world. So I don't agree with that argument, and maybe we will I have a video that we'll watch that is somebody's opinion on the whole matter themselves, and so maybe they'll give a little more of some opposite opinion or what actually the gossip was around this. But at the moment of shooting this right now, that is what my understanding is of this. So then they were talking about how this place is racist for publishing this book, for choosing to publish this book. And so authors started pulling their books from this press. Authors started pulling their short stories that were accepted into anthologies from this press. And eventually the press decided to fold and close the doors and revert everything back to the authors. So that all happened because somebody didn't like the description of this book. Now this leads me to the video in which I wanted to share, which is called "I Was Shocked. Where Do We Draw the Line? Promoting Problematic Content in Horror Literature." There is no line. That's where I'm just going to preface first, is there is no line in what you can or cannot draw or write in horror literature. It's literally called horror. It's terrible. It's speculative, which is a what if scenario. How can you make it terrible? Look, horror novels have genocided entire societies of people, have annexed people. We have books about nukes and bombs and whatever, and destroying other countries and specific people, and genetic testing and human testing and just brutalism. And the line here is drawn at yet another zombie book of some kind, or another biological weaponization of some kind. Okay, let's get into what her thoughts are and start talking out some of these discussions and seeing some different points of view and go from there. But so far, if the promoting problematic content, if this is about like what you can or can't write in horror, I'm going to go straight up say you can write whatever you want in your book, and there are no lines. If you are bothered by what is in horror, just don't read that book.
Well, so this is a totally unplanned video,
So let's go.
and I don't think I've ever made a video like this before. So usually when it comes to controversial things in the book community, I try to stay away from it. I just want to talk about how...
I don't know anything about this person. I've never watched their videos. I don't know who they are, but it is one of the first people that showed up as having commented and opined on this. And so in an attempt to sort of have an almost discussion, responding to direct ideas. So that's why we're
things
here.
on this channel. Spooky books, all the horror, all the Halloween, and of course we're into April now, and we're at the halfway
Halloween's
to Halloween
not real
mark.
horror, let's
So
be
after
honest.
this video is done, I just want to get back to regularly scheduled programming, but I've been really struggling since last night with something, and I feel like I've gone through every stage of grief that there is. Anger, sadness, disbelief, and finally acceptance. So
Why are you having this many emotions about a book? Like about a book being accepted for publication? I don't want to sound insensitive here. I'm going to struggle because I'm a robot. But if you are going through stages of grief because a publisher is publishing a book, that is an over response to something. And you probably need to seek help for being too emotional for stuff that doesn't matter.
So I kind of wanted to bring this to light for specific reasons, which I'll get into, but I kind of wanted to pose this more of as...
Okay, so she's bringing it to light for specific reasons, which she'll get into, and so she'll enlighten us on what her problem with this book actually is, which is also why I'm bringing it to light, so that we can go through this together.
At a discussion, or, to try to help other people realize what's going on and to form their own opinions. So I don't want this to be just a full-on rant. I don't want to call anybody out here. I don't want to just talk about super negative things, because that's really not what I'm about. But at the same time, I am an empath, and when something really bothers me, it really bothers me at a core level.
Again, I'm going to get hate for this, but I don't believe in the whole empath thing. I feel like that's just somebody trying to say that I am super emotional person, and so you should listen to me because I have super strong emotions. Like, that's not a good argument to make if you're trying to say, listen to me and listen to my perspective on this, because you're just saying I have an overly emotional response to things, and because I cry at everything, you should fix things to not cry to me. I'm not trying to pick on this person, but I don't think I am an empath is a good argument for censorship. Considering this is about arguing against promoting problematic content in horror, I can only guess that this is going to go into the form of censorship. Maybe I'm wrong, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Look, if you believe in the empath thing, that's all on you. In the same way that, people can diss on me for my personal beliefs and totally think that I'm insane for my personal beliefs, I don't necessarily think somebody who believes an empath thing is insane. I just don't believe in it, and I don't think saying I'm an emotional person is a good way to start a logical argument about content.
Level and for a very long time. So I wanted to call this out specifically because, like I said, I think this is a good catalyst to a discussion. And that discussion is in horror literature. I mean, obviously, we read some really depraved things. I mean, we're reading about murder and in some cases and torture and amongst all of the other things like spooky things like haunted houses and monsters and plagues and all kinds of things.
Do not tell me
but
that
at some point
is going to
do
be
we have to draw the line
for rape
at what point in horror or in literature in general, I'm just referring to horror because the specific book, the synopsis that I read about was a horror book, do we have to draw the line of the content, or are we going to take the stance that this is free expression, so let's put it out in the world and people can decide for themselves?
Yes, I don't even need to hear the rest of the argument to say yes. And look you want to be disturbed? Do you want to look? Oh, dude, how far back do I even want to go for this? This whole section is so bad. Oh my gosh. There are parts of this that I can't even read on this. Man, I don't think anything is more brutal than this one. The screws were gone, long gone. The show was over. And the audience cleared out fast. Like I said, the place was stinking so bad that people were ready to puke. It was a real bad smell. So she was electrocuted, by the way. So nobody was around but you and Jack. Me and Jack and Rhonda Bell. Curly Bill grinned like the very devil himself. We took the cutie into the back room, and Jack got to work cleaning her up. He pulled down her nasty panties, cut knots with his razor, and slid them off her ass. It was like he promised exactly. He had his hose, and he played it all around her hinder parts. Streams of steam rising off that hot ass, swear to God. Got after her with a lye soap. The mess came off of her and went down the drain. He stuffed her soiled clothes into a bag. He poked her eyeballs back into her sockets and stuck the pieces of adhesive tape over them to hold them in. Why was he going to all of that bother? That was part of his job. He has to fix her up for the free world undertakers. But soon as he was done with his job, he took her and draped her over a nail keg. He put the garter belt back on her and attached the stockings. Her head was down and her bottom was up. There was a big smile on those nether lips, smooth as a baby's behind and bright pink. Jack ran his hand over the full round ass end of her. His hands real black against the bright pink of her behind. He took his fingers and dropped them down to the center of her pussy and spread the petals. It was a gentle gesture. Jack was very tender with Rhonda. He asked me, "When do you figure that she last had a man, Curly Bill?" "You stood there and let Jack handle her that way?" He shrugged. "Hell, I had my eyes on that pussy. You would too. That stuff looked real good, pink and soft, and there was more nasty smell and no more nasty smell at all. She was nice and clean from the soap job that Jack gave her. I got up a little closer to her, and I caught a whiff of her perfume too. She was dead, fresh off the chair, Sonny, and still hot, about 106 degrees and cool and fast. But she was dead, Curly Bill, dead." He paused a beat. More like dead drunk, actually. She weren't stiff, and she didn't smell bad at all. That Chanel on her neck? I licked my lips, puffed out my cheeks, held my peace while I waited for him to come back. It was Jack that did it. had his hard-on firm, sticking his hand in Rhonda's privates to clean her. He started to rub it on, then opened his pants and took it out. He spit in his hand and rubbed it on his dick. Then he turned around and stuck his Johnson right up the poop chute. Cornholder? As I live and breathe. I watched her. What did you say to the black bastard? I told him I had first dibs on her cunt. He answered with a straight face. First dibs, I repeated. Then, you fucked her. A woman who just got off the electric chair? I never said that, Curly Bill disclaimed. Was it good? A look at Curly Bill's long yellow teeth was my only answer. I got off the butt can and stretched. I think I'm gonna get moving, Curly Bill. Oh, what's the big rush, Sonny? I looked him in the eye and said, I'm gonna go get down to the death house, Captain, and see about getting an orderly job. So, tell me, which is worse in this scenario? The fact that they just electrocuted this woman, and she shat herself, her eyes burst out of her head, so then in cleanup, post-execution, they cleaned her up, and then a couple of people had their way with her body, and then somebody else wanted to go and get that job so that he could have his way with dead bodies? Or is it the racism in this scene? Because I would say I've got an opinion on this, but I'm going to leave it at that so that you can come up with your own. Where is the line? I think that there is value in even that sort of text coming out because it is the text of a serial killer and you get to their heads, whatever. But where is the line for what is allowed, what should be allowed in horror?
So this all came about because last night, and unfortunately this happened just before I went to bed, and I hate when that happens because I don't sleep. I hardly slept at all last night.
Stop going on the internet.
And that's just the way that I am. Like, I'm not going to hide it anymore. I was bullied a lot for being that way, and I'm not going to hide it anymore. It's just the way that I am. It really deeply hurt me. And personally, when I read the synopsis of this specific book, it was very problematic, and problematic in a certain way. So I'm not going to call it.
So now you guys know exactly what the synopsis of that book was, because I already showed it to you, because she's not going to name it so that she can just say it was worse than it is. Now, I'm not saying that she's doing it maliciously for that reason. Maybe it is because she was very, very disturbed by that situation. I just don't think that it is fair to be like, I'm going to cover this thing, but I'm also not going to tell you all of the details of it. I'm just going to tell you my emotional response to it, hype up how bad it is, and then I'm going to say, now you make a response to what you think the content is based on what I have implied the content is, as opposed to what it actually is. Does that make sense?
About the specific book, the publisher, the author, or anything like that, because I don't want to give it airtime. But I will leave a link to the Instagram post below that the publisher put out, and it had a synopsis of the book, and they're trying to get people to pre-order. So if you're going to choose to comment on this video, or you want to go educate yourself and find out exactly what it is that I'm talking about, please click the link below and you can decide for yourself. So this specific synopsis was really problematic in that it was overtly racist. And this
you make it very hard to understand what it is you're saying when you bleep out words that aren't even swear words. Like, it was what? Was it racist? Was it white supremacist? Was it sexist? Was it
book that's based on a play?
Can we actually just have adult conversations where we don't get offended by words and can actually just talk about ideas?
That takes over.
Because I really don't think that there's a place in intellectual conversation for being so emotional that certain words make you so emotionally responsive that you can't say them. How are you going to have a conversation?
The world. And it's not one of those things where you have to read between the lines and, oh, you're taking this the wrong way or whatever. Like, this is blatantly, overtly racist. And
sexist?
To me, it is very much pushing an agenda of white supremacy and the idea
of what supremacy? Because you blocked it out.
An idea. It's a conspiracy theory of white genocide. And
oh, it's a conspiracy of white genocide. So you're not allowed to even have ideas of something exist in a book. You're not allowed to play what ifs anymore, or they're just specific lines of like what ifs that you are and are not allowed to play with. Because like, what is it that we were reading? Freaking with Eve the Awakening, we're reading about aliens. Are you not allowed to write books about government conspiracies because that's a conspiracy? Are you not allowed to go, what if this other thing happened? What if? Aren't there so many different historical, alternate history fictions that rewrote things that don't actually exist so you can explore the idea? I didn't realize that fiction was required to avoid certain conspiracy theories because it hurt somebody's sensibilities that ideas might exist. Sorry.
For myself,
my bad.
This is a hard line. This is where, when I'm reading books or I'm trying to promote books or whatever, this is a hard no. Like, just no. I don't care if it's fiction or not.
Why? I mean, like, you don't have to like what everybody writes. That's fair. I'm not even saying that you have to like this. Personally, I'm not interested in this idea because I'm not interested in virus books, or generally, you have to be very catchy with, like, zombie books specifically. I don't think this is a zombie book, but it's not the style of book that I generally read. And in saying this, that you're not interested in this book, you don't have to stop other people who do want to read it from being able to read it. Let it be a hard no for you, but pass on. In the same way that you can say pedophilia is a hard no for you if it's in books, so you won't read Lolita, and you won't read the 120 Days of Sodom, and you won't read anything else that has those elements. You don't have to get them canceled, so other people don't get to read them because it is a hard no for you. Do you understand that, right?
If the premise at its core is pushing the agenda of hate or a particularly hateful group, especially in the kind of climate that we're in right now in the world, I mean, at no time...
Dude, does she have a video on, like, the power where it's going after all men? Does she have something on whatever that book is or series or whatever, that all of the men are dead and it's a universe without men and the world is just better? Does she have a thing against... There are so many stories that focus on marginalizing characters and then having those characters overcome. No more X-Men, because that's about marginalized groups, about violence, about hate. So if we are not allowed to include things into books anymore, if the idea fosters hate and has to do too much with real world things, does this mean that Get Out is going to be canceled? Does this mean that other movies by Jordan Peele are going to be canceled because that has to do with this conspiracy that white people want to take things from black people? Does this, like organs, or to replace them or to use them for something? Does this mean that we are going to start canceling Alyssa Cole's book when no one is watching because it's this conspiracy of white people moving in and replacing the non-white people by taking over the area and then using the non-white people that used to be there to be human experiments because they need somebody to test their drugs on? Like, is that not in the same vein of some sort of wild conspiracy that supplements hate? And if it is, then are we going to cancel those? If it's not, can you please explain to me how those don't fall under the same perimeters as this book? So, just a couple of examples. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Is this okay?
At all.
But especially right now, where we're not in a great space in regards to racism and all of that kind of stuff.
Sexism?
So I wanted to open it up to the viewers of my channel, or if you're new here, to ask the question. And like I said, if you're going to choose to comment on this video, please make sure it's an educated comment, and please read the link to the book before you...
Bruh. I'm gonna keep that.
But is there a hard line where we have to say, like, this isn't okay?
No.
Because like I said, like horror in general,
there's a line where you can say, I'm not gonna read this. There's not a line where you can say, you're not allowed to write this.
Read all kinds of depraved things. Like, I mean, when I'm referring...
Also, I need to understand your POV. If you're like, murdering is fine, rape is fine, death and destruction is fine, terrorism is fine, the mutilation and torture is fine, everything that you can put in a horror book is fine, unless there is some kind of racism or hate. Now, a lot of serial killers actually have hatred as their focus. They will target specific types of victims because of a hatred for a specific person. Not all, because obviously Jeffrey Dahmer targeted people that he was very attracted to, but Ted Bundy, G.J. Schaefer, Ed Kemper, a lot of the big ones all targeted people that they hated. So this argument of you can't put hate in something because society, all I could say is get off of Twitter. Social media makes the world seem so much worse than it actually is.
To that, like, the one that pops into my head is the book Dead Inside, which is something that I would never read. I would never read it. Like, even just the subject matter, like, I can't even talk about it because I feel like I'm gonna throw up. But I'm not going to judge someone for liking something that's depraved. I mean, it's not my thing, but, you know, if you want to read that,
that's fair.
But in the case that at its core, at a book's core, it is pushing the agenda of something that's hateful and something that is specific.
How is it pushing the agenda that is something that is hateful by just existing? Number one. Number two, this is not the only book that pushes something that is just hateful at its core.
Related to things that are going on in the world today. That is a problem for me.
That is also putting stuff in a book that is inspired by things that are happening on today, or being able to reinterpret things that are happening that's going on today, allows for thought experiments, allows for critical thinking, allows for seeing things under a different lens. A lot of racism has been covered and used in sci-fi and fantasy books under the guise of using mythical creatures in order to help give distance, like a fictional distance, to people so they can better analyze things like the situation, reactions, emotional responses, trauma, without feeling personally connected to it so they can think about it from a distance. So what exactly, like forever, people have been doing this. You have so much satire that is very specifically about it. And even for the last couple of years where it has been so hardcore political satire about stuff happening in real life, since when are you not allowed to do this stuff? This is just a way to think.
But what makes this whole idea more complex is that when I read the likes on the post and the comments on the post, the comment section. So on the one hand, I was really saddened when I saw certain people in this community who I would consider friends who liked that post. And to me, that means that you think the subject matter is okay to be promoting.
Yes.
So to me, that was very saddening.
Look, like 5 seconds ago, you said you're not there to police what other people are allowed to like or want to read. But now you're saying I had friends or people that I thought were friends, but they liked something that I don't like and that I think should be canceled. And so I can't even consider them friends anymore. Dude, you're taking other people, this is an emotional manipulation tactic. I don't know if you know this, but if you say you need to conform to my will or else I am severing ties with you, I can't do anything with you, and your likes that are different than mine are actually aggressive towards me, is an emotional manipulation tactic, and it is not nice. It's not even a strong enough word. It is not fair to those other people who thought they were your friends. So you're going to say, well, you can either have this book that I don't like and read this book, or you can have my friendship? What is wrong with you?
Because when it comes down to people's fundamental human rights, that's not a subject for debate.
So you're totally cool with Chainsaw Massacre, rape and murder and torture and all of that. But if somebody supports a book like this or wants to read a book like this, that's where you draw the line and you can't be friends with them. Okay.
It's not a subject for opinion. That is a hard no. And
that's an opinion. You cannot tell people what they are or are not allowed to have an opinion on. I cannot believe that this is actually a conversation that is happening.
And so that was very saddening to me. But on the other hand, there were a lot of reviewers.
Have an opinion on this. You have to have my opinion. You are not allowed to have an opinion on this. Have my opinion.
And a lot of booktubers and bookstagrammers that I also consider friends who openly said to this publisher, like, this is not okay. Like, what in the actual hell are you guys promoting?
What makes you think that you are so worthy of so much ego to go around and tell other people what they are or are not allowed to publish? Like, you're acting like you control that publisher, and I guess technically now you do because you took them down. But you are not the arbiters of what other people are allowed to like or write or want. So who are you guys to go? You could say, I don't like this and I'm not going to support this. So then go and read and buy the books that you want to read and read.
And so I did feel a little bit more restored in my faith in this community, that there are people who would go up to a publisher and say, like, this is not okay.
Okay, I would like to see you. Do you go up to Penguin Random House? Do you go up to Simon & Schuster? Do you go up to all of the big five that are publishing people like Michael Knowles and Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and any of these other authors that you might not agree with and actually might think are just terrible people that are actually writing nonfiction arguments? How about this? That are actually writing nonfiction that is likely very disagreeable with what you believe in. Are you canceling those publishers, or do you still buy books from those publishers? Just asking. Curious.
ABC, like, what are you talking about here? Like, this is gross. This is a hard no. This is a hard line. I saw it posted in people's stories, and in one case, I actually saw that one author who I've reviewed many times on this channel and I talk about on this channel actually posted in her stories that she was supposed to be going into an upcoming anthology with this publisher, and she's now pulled out because she's standing up for what she believes in, which I think is fantastic. I really do. I really think it's fantastic.
So you guys do whatever you feel like you got to do, but you're also doing this thing where you think that you all have to stand in line, have the same ideas, and if people don't have the same ideas, you can't interact with them. This is cult mentality, you guys. It is fine to be published with people that you don't agree on every single thing with. It is fine to hold different beliefs than those people that you are published with. I don't hold the same beliefs as everybody that I interact with everybody that I write with. I actually butt heads all the time with people, with the different people in my friends group, and I think nothing less of them for us having different opinions. In fact, if you see me on panels or talking to other people, we will constantly find places in which we differ in our approach, in our understandings, in what we like or dislike. It can be super easy for me to actually do that with a lot of people because I'm very straight-laced in a lot of ways. And so the straight-laced traditional side of me kind of butts heads with the more liberal sides, but then the more liberal side of me butts heads with the more traditional side of people. So I run into this all the time, and I just have to accept that stuff lives on this spectrum of this issue and this issue and this thing and this thing, and you've got to have nuance and conversation, and you can't force people into lockstep. And there's no reason that you have to do this unless you are insecure about your own ideas and you can't stand the idea that somebody else might have another opinion. Like, do you derive your value from how many people agree with you? Is that why you require it for your friends? Just curious where this comes from.
Especially when, you're pulling back from something that can promote your own success and your own talents. So I thought that was really, really great because, like I said, for myself and obviously for a lot of other people in this community, there is a hard line that we shouldn't cross. And that's when I would assume.
That's what you can read. That's the hard line for you to cross is what you're allowed to read, or what you're willing to read, I should say, not what is allowed to be published, what people want to write.
Involves things that are pushing hateful agendas. And to me personally, like that kind of stuff has no place in this community. To me, it really doesn't. You can disagree with me. This is just my personal stance on this. And just furthermore with that, I wanted to make sure that, number one, I will not be promoting any books.
Stance, I would like to see you not gang up on individuals or indies.
This publisher. Number two, the person who designed the cover art for this book is actually an author who I've been promoting quite frequently on this channel lately. I will no longer be supporting their work because, it's very problematic for me to support someone who's associated with something like that. So I won't be promoting.
What movies do you watch, dude? Do you watch any of the Marvel movies? Do you watch anything from Disney? Do you watch anything that Roman Polanski or Harvey Weinstein were involved with? Like, how far does this go? Is you can't, and anybody who associated with these people, so like everybody associated with Disney is guilty by association based on this. Everybody who has worked with Harvey Weinstein is guilty by association, whether they did something sketchy or not, just like this, because you're saying this person that took this job to make this cover because they were commissioned to do it are just as bad as whatever evil it is that you're thinking. Like, keep your money wherever it is you want to go, but do you not see how extreme it is that you're being in your single-minded think? I'm just
anything like that. I won't be promoting this author. And I just wanted to further say that I want to make sure, because there's more people in this channel now than the last time I said something like this, but this is a safe space for people of color and for minority groups, people who are persecuted. I work very hard to educate myself and be a good ally. And I want to make sure that people are comfortable here, that I would never promote or push something like this. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And I just wanted to, like I said, make a video, number one, because I really needed to discuss this. But number two, like, if just one person comes away from this video thinking that, yeah, maybe there is a hard line that we shouldn't be crossing here. No. If you have a differing opinion, like I would never go head to head with anybody. I don't want this to turn into a fight. But
there's something just seems really sketchy about that. If I would like to have a discussion on this. What is it, baby? Come here. And you seem fairly set in your ways. Maybe that's not the correct impression to get from here, but I don't know if I can say anything that would actually change your mind on having that line of whether something should or should not be published. And if you're talking about just whether something should or should not be read, okay, but this sounds more like the hard line of should or should not be published because you're excommunicating people that were connected to this book in any way, which sounds like punishing those for having the audacity of publishing something that you don't like.
But
this book, then the racist and disgusting behavior, really, racism is the line. Like, that's not even surprising to me because I actually ran into this at Dead End Drive, where people were more disgusted by some passive racist comments than by the murder and the selfishness and the depravity of the characters in Dead End Drive. They only cared about their racism. And only specific racisms, because you see certain racisms against different people in Dead End Drive, and only certain ones matter. Okay, this is one of the comments I wanted to highlight, where it says, I'm not opposed to things existing, but that doesn't mean that publishers have to produce them. This publisher didn't have to produce the book. They chose to produce the book. It came through their submission process, and they said, we enjoy this, we think this is marketable, and so they picked it. It was not a have to. It's you guys said that, not you guys, I don't know if Melissa was personally involved in it, but a mob specifically said, we don't think that this should exist, so we're going to gang up on the publisher and tell them to take it, like, tell them to screw their business and set their business on fire, because we don't think this thing should exist. So as much as you say this, if the guy wants to print them in his garage and sell them on the street, fine. He went through the process to get accepted by a publisher. The publisher wanted it. You guys didn't want it. This is not, I'm okay with this existing. This is you saying, I'm not okay with this existing, and I think that you should suffer for it. Don't talk out both sides of your mouth, please. At least be honest in how much you want to destroy people for having the wrong ideas. This is so... What's the word that I want? It's trying to be sneaky, and it's aggressive, and it's mean, and it's disgusting behavior. You know what doesn't have a place in the writing community? It's this kind of censorship. It's this kind of aggressiveness. Find your group of people that write the stories that you enjoy reading. Find the publishers that write the stories that you enjoy reading. If this publisher wrote stuff or published things that you liked, stick with those ones and read books that you don't enjoy, or don't read books that you don't enjoy from those same publishers. You can't tell me that you purchase every book that comes through Penguin, Random House, any of the big publishers, because they publish a bunch of stuff that you probably don't like. I know that they do, because they've got whole political sections where they pick people up from the left and the right and the middle, and so there are likely ideas that you don't agree with in those groups, and I'm betting that you don't read those books. So what is the difference here? It's that you picked on a small publisher, an independent business that was trying to help people get their books out there, that was trying to give more opportunity, that was trying to compete with the big ones. But you guys don't care about the big ones because you can't take them down. You guys are a bunch of bullies, and it's just more ironic to me that in a video that starts out with somebody talking about how they were bullied when they were a kid, and they're very sensitive, that the whole thing would then come down to bullying other people as a group. Be together, have your groups, like what you want, but stop trying to destroy other people and censor other people and then say that's not what we're doing, because it is what you're doing, okay? And if it wasn't clear enough, like the 20 million times, I think that there is no line in writing. Explore whatever ideas it is that you have to explore, because that's how we learn. That's how we stretch something to its furthest, and that is how we explore things that may exist, may not exist, and just go, that's an interesting angle. Not every book is a great book. Not every story is a great story. Not everything is meant to be curated to your tastes, but fortunately, millions of books are published every year. Not everyone has to fit your specific tailoring expertise flavors. So there's that. I just wanted to add my opinion to this because, or my voice to this, because the conversation in writing and publishing and even critique groups has been so toxic and so much about destroying voices and clamping people down, and I don't think it's helpful to only see one or two people or the majority of voices be out there saying to cancel things because everybody else is afraid to say something for fear of the backlash. So if you're very sensitive, avoid the content that hurts you. But at this point, you're becoming the bully that you are so sure that you are fighting against. So can we just get back to minding our own business and letting people write what they want to write and doing what it is that people want to do? With all that said, those are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, weekend, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer.
For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die.
Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that?
To the left, plain black letters read along the wall,
You walked in the corridor.
Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me.
Where the hell am I?
You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?